Let us have a look at states of requirements as defined by Essence. And requirements in essence are demands for what the system must do to address the opportunity and to satisfy the stakeholders. It's important to specify requirements, identify and define requirements. What if you do not do it, and you start coding instead? Well, you may misunderstand the customer needs and develop a completely new system. You may become this victim of the scope creep, and you remember the scope creep at the beginning of this lecture. The problem is that you finally arrive with something else than with what you have agreed about. And of course, if you have not defined requirements, you do not know what to test. You have not specified them. These requirements are in your head. You may not remember them well, so you have nothing to test your system against. We have, in essence, requirements have different states, and here we have these states. I will briefly go through an example of how the requirements progress through these states, but at the end of these slides you have a more thorough description, so you can follow it on your own. So here we have the requirements. They are first in the conceived state. It means here that the stakeholders that have a need, they have been identified, users have been identified, the folks that fund the system are identified, and of course you have a clear opportunity. After that you start identifying requirements. You have bounded these requirements. Now you know that these sets of requirements will apply for the system to be developed. There may be many more requirements, but you may not bind them to the next coming version. And here you have a system purpose. It is clear, success is clear, and you have under control all constraints and assumptions. You continue working with the requirements. There may be many inconsistencies, ambiguities among the requirements, until you believe that you have achieved a coherent state. This means that now requirements are consistent. You may have conflicts that have been addressed. An example of a conflict is when one requirement says that foreign students should not be addressed in the system, university management system, whereas the other assumes that the student may be of any nationality. So you have to resolve these requirements, and you of course have crystallized the essential characteristics of the system. It does not mean that you stop working on requirements. You have always to make sure that the requirements are clear. You always find problems in them. So after a while you design the system using the requirements, so you have achieved some kind of an acceptable solution that is described. And you can see clearly how the opportunity may be addressed. So somewhere here you implement the requirements, and the requirements become addressed when enough requirements have been implemented. By this, what I mean is that not all requirements probably will be implemented, but enough so that you can release the system. And then when you release the system, of course, the requirements of the system is being used, and by being used the user is satisfied, and in this way the requirements have been fulfilled. Okay, the next coming slides you may study on your own.